Welcome back to Podjunction Podcast, where podcasters learn to grow their business. I'm Sadaf, Beynon, and beside me is Matt Edmundson.
G'day.
Hello.
How you doing? Give us a wave. With the other hand.
No.
So what you can't see is Sadaf is desperately hiding her hand under the table because, what was it, foosh?
I had a foosh.
You had a foosh.
I fooshed it. Okay, apparently it's a medical term.
I think the doctors were having a laugh with
No,
you.
I Googled it to make sure. It's there. It's actually there.
There's a serious medical term called fooshed. Yeah. I fooshed my wrist.
I fooshed my wrist. Yeah, I fell over.
So what does fooshed mean?
So it stands for fall on outstretched hand. Hand.
Hand. Fooshed. Fall on outstretched hand. Foosh.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I'm in a splint for a while.
Yeah, she's knackered her wrist, basically, is what's happened. And so what that means is I have no idea what we're talking about today because the whiteboard in front of me looks like it was written by a 3-year-old or a doctor.
I'll go with doctor.
So as long as you can read those notes, we're good.
Yeah, we'll be okay.
Good. Yeah. So what are we doing today?
So we are talking with Kendall Breitman again, the community manager from Riverside FM. And we are going to be learning two things in this episode. Yeah. Why building a community creates loyalty. And secondly, how to create FOMO and encourage your community to participate.
Okay. So why only two?
Because I thought that it was what we talked about could be distilled to two.
I like it. We're not trying to shoehorn 3 in. I like it.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, good. So two things that we're going to learn today. Sadaf will remind us what they are.
Yes.
Because I still can't read them. I can read why building a community creates loyalty. I can read that and how to create FOMO. So, yeah.
That's enough. That's all you need to know.
That's all I need to know. That's all I need to know. So that's what we're going to look at today. So without further ado, here is the clip from Kendall, and we will be back after this.
Speaking of Instagram and audience, why do you think building a community is so important for the success of a podcast?
I think that there's a few aspects of this. So one is that people are more committed to you, more loyal to you when they feel like they're part of a community. I saw a sketch the other day that was like an X for the host, and then it just all went out in one line, and that's your audience. But then I saw kind of another sketch next to it that was like a point in the middle of a circle, and the circle was your audience, and then you're in the middle, and that's community. So people want to feel like they're a part of something. They're more loyal when they also feel like I'm in a Facebook group of my favorite podcast, and I love to log on and talk with the people and see what they're talking about because we share a similar interest. I also want to continue to listen to the episodes because I feel like I'm a part of that show in a way. So I think that's part of it. I think another part is that you are going to be a better host if you feel connected to your community. You're going to know what your audience wants to hear. You're going to know what they want as a next episode, what they care about, what makes them laugh, what makes them think. So I think that it educates you as a host. It's twofold. Educates you as a host, but it also makes your people, your audience feel like they're connected to you and that they're a part of something. And in that way, they're going to be more likely to subscribe to a Patreon. They're going to be more likely to buy your merch. They're going to be more likely to reach out and message you and say, I loved your show, or I have feedback. So I think those are the main benefits of community.
Yeah, those are great. Yeah. How would you say is a good way to build that community?
I would say that there are a few things you can do. So one is that I would join other communities first. Like let's say I'm doing a podcast on gymnastics. Olympics are coming up, so that came to my mind. So I'm doing a podcast on gymnastics. I'm going to first join a bunch of gymnastic enthusiast groups. And I want to hear from them what they're thinking, what they care about. A little trick could be like, hey, do you think that posting, no one wants to see your spam post being like, hey, here's my podcast episode, listen to it. That's not going to do anything for you. Instead, like actually contribute to these groups. If somebody asks a question, answer it. If you're saying, hey, are you watching this competition or this competition? Which one do you care more about? And then have these people comment on your post, giving their ideas. That's an idea for an episode. Or answering people and making yourself a part of these communities, seeing how these other communities work and educating yourself that way. From there, I would also speak with people that are listening to your show. So maybe someone reaches out and says, wow, love this episode or something. Maybe they post that they were listening. Why not like strike up a conversation with them? Hey, what did you love about it? What do you want to hear more of? Is there a favorite episode that you have? How long have you been listening? How are you listening? I'm not saying to like quiz them, but more to like start a conversation and then have them feel more likely and more free to message you if they have a comment in a later episode, that type of thing. If somebody comments on your post, like interact with them, direct message them. And then my next idea is just never make assumptions. Like when I joined Riverside, I assumed everyone wants to join communities because they want to network. And then I realized after speaking with users that, yeah, they want to network, but they want to network because they want to learn how to become better podcasters. So that's become the main driver of our community. Like help them become the best podcasters that they can. So we build webinars around it. We build community events around it. And so, yeah, I would say that if I had gone on the assumption of networking, I don't think that our community would have been as strong. You really want to figure out what actually hits them, what makes them excited and want to experience more.
Yeah, no, that makes so much sense. So joining other communities, finding those communities, contributing to them, and
reaching out to people that are reaching out to you. I would also say once you have your community, another little trick here is to build FOMO. Like it's really like the fear of missing out is a powerful thing. So there's a podcast that I love that they'll talk about, oh my God, somebody so-and-so from our Facebook group had the funniest comment to say about this one moment. And I'm sitting there being like, so-and-so in the Facebook group, like I want to join the Facebook group. I'm missing out on the conversation. Or yeah, we're going to talk about that more in our Facebook group after this. Like it doesn't have to be Facebook. I'm just giving that as an example. Yeah. But like make people have people are selfish. It's not like no one's going to react on like, I'm so excited to have this group. You want to like make the reason why they should be excited, what they're missing out on, what's exciting that's happening that they want to join on to. So the more you can do that, newsletters that mention my favorite post of this week, like that type of thing could be really powerful in making people feel like they're missing the conversation.
If that got you curious and you want to catch the full episode, be sure to subscribe to the show. We've got plenty more great conversations coming up.
So, welcome back. Love that clip. I feel like I say that after every clip.
Yeah, you do. Tell us why you love it.
It's super practical. Super practical, super helpful, talking about stuff which we all in theory know about. We all in theory know we should do because it's a good thing. But the reality of it is very few of us do it. And if we do it, we probably don't do it in our heads, at least. We probably don't do it to a standard that we want to.
Yeah.
Right? So I feel like it's super practical, and I think it's like hitting a key issue that we all face as podcasters. So yeah, I thought it was, I'd love listening to her talk, and picking her, you picking her brains, I think is quite great. You get some great insight there.
Yeah, she was good. I liked what she said about so building a community, that it doesn't just help you understand your community better, your audience as to what they want and the types of things they're looking for, but also helps you become a better host as a result of it. Yeah. Because you suddenly understand what they're wanting and you're able to deliver that. Yeah.
Yeah. It's I mean, we've talked about that a lot on this show, haven't we? And it's the fundamental principle of all core marketing activity, isn't it? Is understand what it is your audience wants, your ideal client, your target market, whatever language you want to use. If you know what they want, that's half the battle right there, because then you know what you need to deliver.
Yeah.
And I think so often we assume that we know what people want.
Like she said, yeah.
One of the things I did yesterday, actually, I was looking at LinkedIn and how I need to, just again, looking at community on LinkedIn and how that works and how to do that better. One of the things that I did, which I can really encourage you to do in this area, takes a bit of time, but you go and find 10 people in that niche, in that sector that is doing it well, right? Just go and search for them. You probably are connected with them already. They're going to have lots of followers. They're posting once, twice a day. They're getting engagement. They're getting likes. They're doing all the stuff that you would really want to do. And if you just look down their feeds and see what kind of things they're posting, is it a video? Is it an image? Is it a text post? Is it an article? What is it they're posting? How long is it? What's the tone of language? What kind of things do they talk about? And just analyze the feed. So the people that are doing it well, even your competitors in that sector, analyzing what's working for them actually, in some respects, gives you a massive head start, because now you're starting to understand what resonates with your audience.
Yeah.
Right? They're going to like, comment, and engage with stuff that resonates with them. So I don't even think it's half the time we have to go to people and ask them what do they want. I think you can do that, and Kendall brought that up, going to Facebook groups and stuff, which we'll talk about in a sec. But I think you can give yourself a head start just by doing research into people that are doing it well in your sector.
Yeah, and I think also to add to that, there's something to be said for consistency as well. So like if you're consistently posting to LinkedIn, that's where you're going to start getting the followers. Just, you know what I mean? Yeah. You're never going to be straight out the gate, even after all that research, being able to perform like that.
Yeah, you're right. There's that great phrase, isn't there? You never get fat off one pizza, and you never get thin from one visit to the gym. And it's about what you do day in, day out. And I think so often if you're like me, listener, you'll be kind of like the guy that goes, this is right, I totally need to do this. You'll do it for a day or two, maybe even a week. And then a week or two later, life gets busy. Everything else has taken over, and it's just not happening. Which is why I really like Kendall's idea, actually. Just go and get involved in some groups that are already established, because that's even easier. Yeah. That's an easier barrier to entry, to overcome in many ways, because they're already there. You don't have to do anything. You just have to turn up and say, right, I'm going to schedule 10 minutes here, 10 minutes there, and I'm going to go look in those groups, see what's posted, see what questions got, respond to them, start some conversations, and see how we get on. The other thing I thought, actually, that is a really obvious thing you can do is when you go into those groups. So what did she use? Gymnastics, Olympic gymnast as an example. I mean, that's a super niche podcast right there, but fair play. One of the things that you can do is go to these groups, see who is commenting the most, who the contributors are, not necessarily the owners, but who are the most active community members, and say, hey, I'd love to get you on the podcast. So, you could use it as a way to understand community, but as a way also to build great guests, because guess what? Those are active in those communities. They're posting a lot of stuff. They're going to come on your show. They're going to talk about it, and they're going to promote your show to the people that they're connected with, because that's what happens, right? People are proud of the podcast that they go on. And so it's a really clever way of doing it. You go into the groups, you engage, you understand the community. You don't have to really do anything other than give it a bit of time. And in there as well, the consequence of that is you'll find some great guests for your show. That's a really good point. It's a great idea, actually. I should copyright that. Trademark it. You should try it. And then you can do that. Sting. To be fair, I have done that. I have gone into groups and I've and the people that you engage with the most, that seem the most interesting, I've said to them, listen, come and be guests on the show. And some of the guests on Push have come from groups that I'm in. Some of the guests on EP are as a result of groups that I've been in. But it's interesting because I've never, until Kendall was talking, I'd never really put the two together. Yeah, I'd never realized actually this is a sensible strategy. It's just something that I did. But actually it makes a lot of sense. Yeah, it is good. So yeah, when she said that, I think it, like you say, it's such a logical thing to do because you're researching your audience before you want to start, right? But I never thought of it because for me it's like, well, I want to build my own audience. I don't really want to go contribute to someone else's, but it makes so much sense. It does, because you're you're talking to issues that matter. And I think this is a really important thing. And you can be in any scenario. And it's like, unless you're talking about stuff that matters to the people that matter to you, you're not really going to get the traction.
Yeah.
And I think it's really, really important. What you can do I'm going to do the podcast thing that's going to be very contentious, because I'm going to be not divisive, but I'm going to come down really heavy on one side and therefore very anti on this side. So the ones that I see at the moment, you've got people who are very, say, right-wing coming against what they would call woke ideology. You've got people who are very left-wing coming against what they call the hardcore conservatism. And you've seen this polarization world, and you kind of go, well, I'm going to take a side, therefore people will either love me or they hate me, but it's Marmite, and that works, and that gets an audience, and it really does work.
Yeah.
To have an opinion is a good strategy, but it only works because it's what half the people on the planet want, right? So you're feeding people who have these views more data and more information to promote those views, right?
Yeah.
Now, we can take it to extremes and say, is that a good thing or a bad thing? But the principle still remains the same. You've got to give people what they want. And that really, you've got to understand your audience is fundamental. And I think that one of the biggest mistakes we make, or certainly one of the biggest mistakes I make, is to assume everybody's like me, which is not, there's only one of me. Thank the Lord. The world can only cope with one. But the reality of it is, how I see things is not always the same as how everybody else sees things. And I think getting that diverse opinion is quite good and quite helpful, but also not assuming that I know, which is why I go and do the research.
Yeah.
It's why most businesses fail, because especially e-com businesses, you get an entrepreneur who thinks, well, there's this problem. I know how to solve it because this is a solution that I would want.
Yeah.
And so they go and create the solution, but it fails because it's not a solution a lot of people want. It's just them. They're just a bit weird.
Yeah.
And so you have to have that sort of that mass market appeal in some respects if you want to build that audience and if you want to build that community.
Yeah. I like that.
It'll work.
What was it you said you were going to come back to? You mentioned something as well.
I can't remember. We'll come back to it when I remember.
When you remember.
I should have noted it down. I should have noted it down.
All right. Well, should we move on to the next bit, which you probably can't read, but it says how to create FOMO and encourage participation.
Yeah, this is an interesting one, isn't it? Because how do you motivate people? And so you can create a community, and what you'll find is, at least my experiences in trying to create various communities, you're going to get different types of people. Rich Rising uses a really interesting analogy here when he uses a baseball analogy. So for everyone that's British, we haven't got a clue what we're talking about, but it kind of makes sense. It's like if you go and watch a baseball game, which I have done actually, when I watched a baseball game, which was great with Jared Mitchell the other week, who's also been a guest on the podcast. I say the other week, it was last year. Come on, Matt, keep up. What you have at a baseball game is large crowds, right? And it's true of a football game, baseball, whatever it is, you have the crowds. And so you've got a community that has come to watch it. So they're kind of active. In other words, they're not at home. They're not just listening to it on the radio. They're not watching TV. They're not going to check the scores in the paper the other day. They're kind of, they're more than just interested from a surface level.
They're invested.
They're invested. They've come to the game. But even then, you have various levels of investment. So if you think about the guys sitting right at the back have paid the least amount of money for those tickets. The guys in the middle have paid them, a reasonable amount of money for those tickets. And the guys right close to the edge have paid the most for their tickets. They're the ones that have face painted, that have gone and, you see them in the merch store. They've got the hats, they've got the sweaters and all that sort of stuff. And when I went to the game, we were kind of sat near the front. We got good tickets for some reason. I mean, Jared got them somehow. And I went into the shop and I bought a cap because I was sort of, I don't know, it wasn't intentional. I'm just sort of thinking
Caught up in the momentum.
Yeah, it's great. I've never worn that hat since, right? But I felt proud to wear it at that point. And we're watching the game. And I think community is a lot like that. You have people with various levels of investment, various levels of people wanting to get involved. And then, of course, the ultimate investment is to get on the field and play, right? And so understanding that is really important because, again, with community, we assume everybody is going to be like us and we assume everybody is the same as everybody else. But you're going to get a handful of people who are hyper motivated and you're going to get thousands of people who seemingly do nothing.
Yeah.
Right? The guys, they're the guys watching the game on TV. They sort of seemingly do, and you're like, oh, we've got this massive following.
Yeah.
But nothing really seems to be happening. And then out of the blue, every now and again, you'll get a message from someone. And so how do you motivate them at the various stages? And I think you have to think about it in different ways for the different stages to motivate them. Because what's going to motivate someone who is like super invested, is to give them merch, like a hat, to help them feel like they belong and sort of get involved. But that might be a little bit too much for the guys right at the back.
Yeah.
Do you see what I mean?
Yeah.
And so understanding what works to take people onto the next stage of the journey is important. And one of those tools, which I think is super important, is the fear of missing out.
Yeah.
FOMO really motivates
It does.
people.
Yeah, it does. I think people that are on the periphery, you kind of have to put more effort into understanding what's holding them back.
Yeah.
Because as you say, there are different levels.
Yeah.
And so everyone's going to have different needs and different perspectives. And understanding, as you say, those different levels is really important.
It really is. It's like a typical sales funnel. If we're going to use business jargon, there's a sales funnel, isn't there? We were looking at some stats earlier on. One of our website has 1.7 million views this last month.
Yeah.
That's a lot of people sort of clicking onto the site. But and it would have been great if 1.7 million people
Bought something.
that I would be over the moon. I'd be like, well, come on. But you can, you narrow it down, don't you, at each step of the way. And, different levels. And you have to understand at each segment of that journey where they're at and how can I motivate them to the next stage? Because the more I can bring them closer, the more I can bring them in, my experience is the more they evangelize about what it is that you're doing.
Yeah.
Right. So this is why I think building a community is important, but understanding the stages of where people are at in that community and bringing them to the next stage is where you get really significant impact, really significant growth. If you're going after that whole community aspect. The downside is, of course, it sounds like a lot of work.
Yeah. Well, I was going to ask, have you done that for e-commerce podcast? Because that's older, isn't it?
It is. No, is a reality. It sounds a bit crass. In some respects, we started e-commerce podcast as an experiment, and we never really... We've tried various ways to monetize it in the past. None have really worked. And I think that's more because, again, I didn't understand what they wanted, but more I've done this, do you want to buy it kind of a thing. What I've not done with EP, and again, we have the same issue. We have thousands of people connecting with it. But I only ever hear from a few people, only ever a few people leave reviews. But I know people are listening to it all the time. I spoke to a guy called Dylan yesterday, called me, and he said, Matt, listen, I've been listening to your podcast. I started listening to it in August. Now it's October right now.
Still going.
Right? He said, I've just about caught up.
Wow.
I'm like, what? He's listening to 10 episodes a day at that rate. Do you know what I mean? It's like, it's a lot of episodes to listen to. And I just had to apologize because...
Did you ask him why?
That's a lot of Matt. I did. I wanted to understand why. And I got to the bottom of it, and I'm starting to understand what is going to help him. And actually some of the changes we're bringing to EP is going to help him. Okay. But it would be great actually to be able to do that with probably 100 or 200 people that listen to the show. I can kind of assume that what we're doing works because it's growing.
Yeah.
And you can look at a number of reasons why it's growing in the sense that it's been around a while. It gets promoted more because we're consistent with the whole thing. The more people that listen to it, the more people that Apple and Spotify are going to promote it to.
Yeah.
The longer it's out there, the more people Google are going to promote it to on the website. So there is this sort of snowball effect.
I think also to add to what you were saying is the guests that we're having on as well.
Yeah.
Because they push it to their audience as well, which pulls people in.
Yeah, and I think we're a lot more selective about guests and so on and so forth. So, but what I haven't done is tried anything on the fear of missing out with our community to try and I've not analysed the various stages of the community to try and persuade them to go to the next level.
Yeah.
A big part of that, if I'm honest, is total laziness on my part because we flirted around with monetizing it, but we never really needed to.
No,
it was just something that we did because we just did it because we wanted to do it and we've enjoyed it. But I think that, going forward, we understand what we need to do differently now because we have a need for it actually to grow one of our companies.
Yeah.
So we are changing the strategy.
Yeah. And in your defense, it's not laziness. We're just a small team doing a whole lot.
A small team doing a whole lot is totally true. But again, it comes down to priorities, isn't it?
Yeah.
What do I prioritize? And I have not prioritized doing that with the community. I remember when we first started, we had a Facebook community. We did this little Facebook group.
Yeah.
And that quickly got like hundreds of people joining it. And people were super active in that. And for whatever reason, I can't remember why, we stopped doing the Facebook group. I think I stopped live streaming. Something happened. And there was a gap of like 6 months where nothing happened with the group. And then I went back to it 6 months later and it was like it was dead.
Yeah.
It was just like, and it never regained what it was, which I thought was a real shame.
Yeah.
And that was totally my fault.
Yeah.
And
There was something else that we started as well. I can't remember the platform, but we called it Orion Hub. What was that?
Yes. Yeah. That was the cohort.
Cohort. That's right. Yeah. We did that with e-commerce, didn't we?
Yeah, we did. And that worked quite well for a season. And I think we've stopped it now. And I'm kind of like, it worked well. It didn't work well enough. And I think, again, I don't think we delivered what it was people wanted. I think I assumed what people wanted rather than going and finding out. But the people that connected with it were amazing.
Yeah.
But it was a small subset of people. And so I think we needed and are still rethinking what that means.
Yeah.
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 Good. Oops. Sorry, I just pressed the wrong button. There we go. So yeah, anything else on this?
No, I think that was really good. And I think we've covered it.
I think we've covered a lot today.
Yeah.
I genuinely think we've covered a lot, which is good. So yes, that's it from us. Thank you so much for joining us. If you want to know more about what we do podcast-wise, then obviously check out podjunction.com. Small plug for what we do right there. But we would love it if you would like and subscribe to the show. But given what we've talked about, we would also love it if you would reach out and say, how's it? We do genuinely, people connect with us all the time on social media and all the time they come out and say, I was listening to the podcast. And you're like, oh, that's amazing.
Yeah.
And part of me feels like I need to apologize. Part of me is just very grateful that someone's listening to the show. But you know what? It just thrills us when people reach out. Even if it's just say hello, really appreciate the episode. And we know there's, a growing audience now with Podjunction. So if you are listening to this, fantastic. Give us a shout out. Connect with us on social media. I'm at Matt Edmundson on Instagram and LinkedIn. You are?
I am Sadaf Beynon on Instagram and Sadaf Beynon on LinkedIn.
So hang on, let me just clarify this. At I am Sadaf Beynon on Instagram.
Yeah.
And at
Sadaf Beynon
on
LinkedIn.
Okay, not the I am.
No.
Okay. Just clarifying that. Anyway, the links will be in the show notes, I'm sure. But connect with us. Love to hear from you. And yeah, let us know what you think. Anything you want us to cover in the show. Any guests you want us to get on. Do that whole community thing and feedback. Don't just be the guy at the top of the the bleachers or whatever they're called in the baseball game. Get involved. We'd love to hear from you. So yeah, that's it from us. Thank you so much for joining us. Have a fantastic week wherever you are in the world. Bye for now.
And that brings us to the end of today's episode at Podjunction. If you've enjoyed the insights from this episode and want to hear the full conversation with today's special guest, don't forget to visit podjunction.com where you'll find more information about how you can join Podjunction cohort. Whether you listened while on the go or in a quiet moment, thank you for letting us be a part of your day. Remember, every episode is a chance to gain insights and to transform your business with podcasting. So keep on tuning in, keep on learning, and until next time, happy podcasting.